brain poison time.
Sexism when we have no barriers today, so we can pick what we want to pick.
Who doesn't have barriers?
Women don't have barriers?
Women, yeah. What's
we have
stopping
no
you? You
barriers.
can do whatever you want.
I can
you?
or you can?
What's stopping you?
We're about to talk about women's rights, and we're about to talk about women's wrongs, baby. Last time I watched like a Jubilee style video where feminists were debating each other, I had that famous moment where I said, I hate women so much. Hopefully I will try to avoid that heated moment again, but it's going to be hard. Let's watch.
Should we mark this bad boy at all? Oh my goodness.
Oh, here we go.
Hi, welcome everybody.
Leave it to a 90% male chat to talk women's studies. First of all, this is a 24% female audience, so suck my cock, you dumbass.
I'm Liz Landers. I'm Vice News' chief political correspondent, and we are here today to talk about some of the biggest issues dividing women across the country. In other words, we're here to talk about feminism. First, I just want to say we know we can't represent everybody's views, but we did try our best to bring together a diverse group of women today. In today's polarized world, is feminism dead? I saw your hand.
I think that depends on the definition of feminism. I strongly think that feminism is more of an action than an identity. I would say it's uplifting all women, in which case...
This haircut, England, would automatically cause me to assume that this is a TERF. In America, automatically intersectional feminist. Okay? Straight up.
It's very alive. At the same time, if we do follow that definition, feminism has splintered off into so many different areas that you can look at people like Sheryl Sandberg who say you should just get another nanny if you feel oppressed. And if we're talking about that kind of feminism, yeah, it's pretty dead.
I think feminism isn't actually about equality. It's about equality when it benefits us. I think feminism is really about women wanting special privileges and treatment at the expense of men often. And I think it's alive and well, sadly.
Similar to what Pearl just said, I find that a lot of feminist ideology and thought today feels more of like a supremacist movement rather than...
Pearl and this lady are both right-wing commentators, by the way. This is their job. Once again, we have a situation where, you know, you have pitted people who do this professionally. This is a concerned parent, right? When they talk about like trans issues at schools or whatever. When you look at the concerned parent's background, you find out that they're like literally a Republican lobbyist, you know what I mean? For specifically like anti-trans issues. It's always like that.
Something that is supposed to be advancing the goals of equality. I don't think that we can really term what's going on as feminism because it looks so different to, I think, the earlier feminist movements. In that way, I would say it's taken its last breaths of life. It's dying.
Yeah, I definitely think it's getting more and more radicalized, for sure. So it's definitely still alive.
I think I'll preface and say that I don't know so much about modern Western feminism, and there might be a lot of terms that I don't know, like political jargon and stuff. But I believe in the advancement of women, whoever considers themselves a woman. I think there's a deficiency in society, deeply rooted that feminism has always existed. I think America's a little obsessed with themselves, and it's like always feminism is...
5 of the 9 women there are conservative. That is the least surprising thing. There's 2 reasons for this. One, because conservatives are better content. Let's be f***ing real for a moment, okay? Take a deep breath and admit certain things. Conservatives are f***ing content. It's just the truth. So all these like demon producers often recognize that reality and move accordingly. The other reason is because that's just how the media is. They have to create a false sense of conservative attitude, greatly exaggerate how conservative America is. 65% of women are pro-choice. Conservative women are pro-choice. I wonder, when the abortion conversation comes into play, what percentage of these carefully crafted panelists are actually going to be pro-choice?
Is rooted in America and like, oh, white women started it. And it's kind of offensive because for thousands of years, women have been dying for their rights.
I think as a Black woman specifically, when you talk about feminism...
Has a misogynistic woman ever been on the left? Yes, of course. These concepts transcend like left and right boundaries. Of course, dude. What are you talking about? There are misogynistic men on the left. There are misogynistic women on the left. Of course. Misogyny is a societal construct. Racism and white supremacy is a societal construct. These are impossible things to just like magically avoid, or these are impossible things to just like immediately have the correct position on. Okay? So yes, there are plenty of people who are misogynistic.
Yeah, the mainstream first thing you think about is a certain type of feminism that tends to exclude still, even today, even with intersectional feminism, exclude African-American women. And it's always kind of done that. And also like, upper middle class white women has predominantly been the face of what we quote unquote consider feminism.
I think feminism is attempting to say, okay, the first thing we agree on is that there are barriers and friction to what I need and what I want based on the fact that I'm a woman. What it ignores is that, and what privilege is that you may not have to think that being a woman and being a black woman and being a black woman who has a disability, for example, impacts you further. You have more barriers, you have more friction, you are less able to get what you want. You're undervalued in a way that's like, okay, well, you know, that's life. That's what I mean by equity, and that we're able to, without friction, all get the same needs met.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, see, I disagree with that. I think life is easier if you're a girl. Actually,
Yeah,
I think
it
there's
as
a lot
an
of
advantage.
benefits that men don't have. I'm not going to speak anything to race. I'm just talking about gender specifically. It's usually like an excuse. Like, honestly, I think as a girl, you have equal opportunity in the world. I think there's benefits. Like, for example, we have quotas for women in specific jobs that are given to us that aren't given to men. So yeah, I would say it's easier being a girl.
Just from a viewpoint over here that
I mean, you could say that about race as well. It's usually to correct a historic wrong. However, it's silly to look at that and go, and that's precisely why it's easier. I think the reason why she avoided talking about that from the perspective of race is because she understands as a media personality how f***ing dumb and racist she would look. Pearl is just saying her 3 talking points that work on her podcast. Yeah, I think they're going to eat her ass alive here. I think like, even though there are more conservative voices on this panel than there are, you know, progressive ones, I think that the progressive voices that you do have here, I assume will, you know, eat her ass alive.
it seems there's a lot of pretty privilege in what you're saying, and that you're white and you present.
Wait, no, she did not just say there's pretty privilege in what you're saying while talking to just pearly things. Come on now. Come on now.
Do you think I'm pretty? Thank you.
I think that you
Yeah, even Pearly was like, that's crazy. I didn't say it. She did. I should have just kept it rolling.
present in a way that beauty standards have accepted. And so
they call me ugly on the internet all the time. They be roasting me daily, I swear to God.
I don't mean to say I think you're gorge. I just mean that there a certain value that we give to certain bodies.
She still flipped it and cooked her. Oh.
I mean, let's also dig into why these quotas exist and why these, what you're calling
because
privileges
we want
exist.
special treatment.
No, it's because there have historically and presently in most jobs been fewer women, and because of sexism.
Well, yeah, but immediately you'll be like, that's because women suck. It's so good. It's so, dude, being a conservative is so dope, dude. You could just be like the dumbest person on the planet, and like you still get to have a say because like American media has this like weird notion of like respecting every idea. It's like no matter how idiotic it is, right? You just say anything, and it's like people go, "That's right. That's my lady right there."
How is it sexism when we have no barriers today? So we can pick what we want to pick.
It doesn't have barriers.
Women don't have barriers?
Women, yeah. What's
We have
stopping
no
you? You can do
barriers.
whatever you want.
I
stopping
can
you?
or you can?
What's stopping you? As a woman.
As a woman.
No, that's awkward ass conversation, bro. Stop.
It ignores a lot that I'm a woman with a disability. So there's a lot stopping me that you don't have to think about.
Well, as I
You don't
said
have to
before, I'm
think about.
speaking about women. I'm not.
You're speaking
I'm not,
you're speaking for yourself.
You're speaking as
an able-bodied
able-bodied
white woman.
I
That is
understand.
white.
Represents white.
Of course, there's going to be other barriers if you're disabled. I'm sure. Like I'm talking about as a woman.
So you're
I
just
would
going to
agree.
ignore
White
the
women
pay
have it
gap.
easier. Yes, I would agree.
What?
Oh no. Oh, this panel is shot, dog. Oh no. Here we go, baby. Why is anyone allowing this woman to speak in public? I agree. Why is anyone allowing women to speak in public in general? You know what I'm saying? These are things that I think of when I watch content like this, okay? I'm just kidding. Ironic misogyny is still misogyny. I know.
You're just going to ignore the pay gap, regulation over body.
Well, where were you timing me? It took 6 minutes and 52 seconds.
Pay gap has been
And
disproven
the
and
pay gap
debunked
doesn't
endlessly,
exist.
my friend.
It doesn't.
That's so
It's
funny.
the industries that women pick.
Let's talk about it.
There's a pay gap, but it's because women don't want to do the hardest industries.
I don't think it's that simple.
This is like always a hilarious take to me because like women don't want to do the hardest industries, and it's like half the time they're talking about like menial labor, right? They're talking about like working at an oil rig or working at a construction yard and shit, right? It's like it's not like those industries are paying the best either. That's so stupid. And the barrier of entry for a lot of those industries, I'll use Twitch as an example. This is something that often gets overlooked a lot because people think that there's sexism on this platform, but in the other direction, people think that like it's much easier to make it as a female Twitch streamer, and yet for some weird reason in the top 10 most watched streamers on this platform year over year, there is never a woman there. I wonder why. There are barriers of entry as a woman to make it in this space. It's just the truth. So that isn't to say that you can't make it as a woman in this industry. It's just that your ladder that you have to climb, the stairs you have to climb to get up there is going to be much harder. And when you are at the top, like for example, Pokimane is, you're going to have a lot more haters despise you on the virtue that you are a woman. Like, that's it. That's a barrier. That's a gigantic barrier for people. Anyway, Pearl purposely dumbs down our arguments or says something so absurd it's impossible to counter in a meaningful way. Like, how do you debate flat earthers who refuse to believe that NASA or something is a credible source of information? Exactly. And those barriers in very serious ways exist in pretty much every facet of society because society has been historically patriarchal and contemporarily it's still patriarchal.
I think that's an oversimplification. I think the fact of the matter is that women structure their lives differently to men. Men don't give birth. Men don't have to carry pregnancies. Men don't have to be the primary caregiver most of the time. Women also don't hold jobs for as long as men do. They often will stop and start. They'll go back into work. They'll take time off. They'll take part-time jobs. The way that men work and women work are astronomically different. And to try to say that they're comparable is where this issue comes from. They're not comparable.
Two things. First of all, let's dig into why they think that they should take these jobs, which is societal sexism. And then also, Department of Labor, all statistics, at least speaking in the US, have found that when compared for the same jobs, there still is a pay gap, particularly when it pertains to race.
Because 60% of women have never asked for a raise. So how can you complain about your pay if you don't ask for it?
Why are they not?
What happens when women ask for raises?
Oh, that's funny, man. Women be shopping. Women don't be asking for raises. Boom. Over. Conversation done. This is why I say it's so awesome to be a conservative. Like, you have such easy answers. It's like living life in a fairy tale. You know what I mean? Which is ironic because conservatives always say, like, leftists want to live in a fairy tale. It's like, no, motherfucker. Progressives want certain things that they recognize they do not currently have. Okay? That makes their lives a living hell all the fucking time. Because if you're constantly like advocating for emancipation and you're constantly advocating for equality, equal representation, you know, not having your civil liberties eroded all the goddamn time, and it still happens, like, that's kind of shit. Whereas as a conservative, you can look at that and go, oh, it's because they just didn't ask for it.
Sorry, I've been wanting to say something, but I want to be respectful. I don't want to interrupt people, and I want to let them finish their thoughts.
Jump in.
It's so dumb. There are so many industries. By the way, again, this is why the male-female dichotomy is like such a silly one, because there are female-dominated industries where women notoriously and very publicly demand raises regularly and yet get their shit pushed in by even federal authorities at certain points. One of the examples I will use immediately is teachers, okay? Teachers unions have engaged in wildcat strikes. Teachers in Oklahoma still have an incredibly tough job and yet make like $30,000 a year. It's unacceptable. They literally have to work a second job, sometimes a third job on top of that for survival wages. Another industry dominated by women is nursing. Nurses are also doing horrifyingly gruesome work, so hard, unimaginably difficult. Oh, people only rugged men who work at the oil rig have a tough job. Yeah, dude, talk to me when you're trying to hold down a dude who's like foaming out of the mouth and like blood spurting out of their guts. Okay, I would go so far as to say housekeeping is an incredibly difficult job within the hospitality industry as well. A lot of jobs that are dominated by women that get no attention from the media, that where women are very routinely, very regularly demanding higher pay and higher wages. Also, the argument that like this is a male-female dynamic is a silly one. Why is it a silly one? No matter what your background is, no matter what your ethnic background is, no matter what your religion is, no matter what your sexual orientation is, okay? No matter what your sector, you are still a worker. You are still getting fucked over by your bosses. You still want to work the least amount of hours for the highest amount of pay. Your bosses, on the other hand, want you to work the most amount of hours for the least amount of pay that they can get away with. So these kinds of conversations, unironically, destroy class solidarity. And they are very successful at destroying class solidarity. It is deeply frustrating to see this on the boundaries of men and women when both men and women are getting fucked over under capitalism. It's very, very frustrating.
But, you know,
Go
it's
through the
just,
wall.
it is a very privileged label, right, to be able to say that you're feminist, right? And I say that because I come from a working class background of Dominican immigrant parents. My mother would not necessarily identify as a feminist. I look to my mother, and I do think of her as a feminist. A lot of my ideas and my empowerment comes from seeing her, like, survive and put food on the table. When I'm thinking about feminism, I'm always thinking about who's not part of the conversation. What are the barriers? How do we think about equity? How do we think about self-empowerment and agency and having a voice, right, and having choice, and thinking about our basic human rights, education, access to health, homes, like having bread, having food, and those things are very important, right? And they're at the crux, right, of what a lot of us here know that we need. It's like there are the barriers, right, that we constantly ignore that are very much systemic and microaggressive, right? We see them and experience them every day.
Like what in the U.S.?
So,
Like what?
What would you like to know an example of?
I know you said.
Everyone rolls their eyes. Pearl has already established herself as like the annoying one on the panel. Even the conservatives are like, ugh, Jesus Christ.
I want to know what barriers in the U.S. today as a woman.
Well, as a woman or as a woman of color? Let's be specific.
As a woman. I said as a woman.
Well, no, I can't answer as a woman.
I
I'm
just feel
not
like
a
your
woman,
question is
right?
kind of hostile.
I hate this. She's like using, look, I don't know why it's so difficult. Like, this is what happens when you're talking to a person who does this professionally, okay? Because they know how to trip you up. This is what they do for a living. It doesn't make them more intelligent, and it certainly does not make them correct. It just, again, means that they are good at the format. It's like being the best test taker, okay? What she's doing in that regard is like, what are the boundaries that you have as a woman? This should be relatively simple to explain, especially as we're coming off the heels of the abortion conversation. Women do not have bodily fucking autonomy in this country. How the is no one bringing that up? But I do not fault them for not bringing that up, because when you're put on the spot like that, unless you are a media person, you're going to have a hard time coming up with the adequate counter to that, okay?
When you're like, there are no barriers to what I want. Congratulations. That means you have a privilege where you're not facing any friction, and that's showing. And I feel like it's
I think
like
as an American, you're very privileged.
There's an intersectionality to marginalization, just like there is an intersectionality to privilege. This is something that I've talked about many, many times over, especially on this broadcast. Privilege blind spots, as I like to call it. The intersectionality of privilege does not mean that marginalization still cannot exist. Okay, this is not the oppression Olympics in the way that Republicans like to claim it is. That's not how this works. Yes, as an American living in the imperial core, you are profoundly fortunate. You are much better off than, let's say, a woman living in Afghanistan. Okay, Taliban occupied Afghanistan. That doesn't change the reality that you as a woman within your own realm should get fucked over worse than the men.
I keep hearing the term equity. What would a world that has equity look like? Like, would it be 50% of everyone in the same jobs? Would it be like prison, 50%? That's
equality.
50%. So what does equity look like?
So equity is generally described as a state of fairness, because historically a lot of people have been arguing for equality, but what does that give us? Like 0.5 of the 1% being women. This doesn't really do anything for us. And so people have talked about equity instead, which is instead of sameness, it's fairness. And this would mean that we remove systemic barriers to engage in society, not just for women, but also for everyone.
So which barriers?
Those barriers that you don't believe in.
I do.
For you to have a bunch of ramps in your life, it doesn't do shit. I need those ramps, right?
Can we stick to male versus female? That's my question. So I'm thinking male versus female.
She's using that as an example. She needs ramps, you don't. Women need things that you yourself are failing to recognize, like a leg up, to right historic wrongs. That's it. Extra support. If historically society has fucked over women, stopped them from participating in the workplace, and women's freedom, sexual freedom, even now is like a relatively new phenomena, and even now is not like fully achieved, okay? Or women's freedom in the workplace is now still not fully achieved, then yeah, there are still plenty of barriers to work on.
But my feminism includes ability, it includes
my
race.
question is
You
for
guys
women.
can talk.
For women versus men. Like what barriers do we need removed? Because that's my statement. I'm not stating anything else. I'm stating women versus men.
It's very silly.
Like so what barrier? I just want to.
I mean, she's cooking them. She's a media person and she's cooking them. I'll be honest with you. The average Norman who's already inclined to agree with what she's saying, both men and women, by the way, because like we always forget women's role in upholding misogyny, or women's role in also believing in misogynistic constructs as a consequence of this being like a very powerful method of social conditioning under patriarchy. People are going to look at this and go, she's cooking them. You disagree because you don't agree with her. If you're in this fucking chat, of course you're going to disagree with her, man. What the fuck? Obviously.
Question
It's a
is
fair
silly.
question.
So, yeah, but
It's not a fair question.
How would you reply to her? I already did. The entire capitalist mode of production historically been designed around men, male qualities, and men working in the workplace. The lack of adequate compensation for maternal leave, okay? The fact that there's only maternal leave and not even paternal leave, like that's fucking crazy, okay? The idea that like menstruate, like the cycle, like period cycles are just like an afterthought, okay? Things that like women have to take care of that are never really addressed or never really thought about. The amount of prejudice that people in positions of power still have towards women not being able to adequately do the same fucking job or play the same roles men play. And this is the exact same as black people not being hired in positions of power as well. NFL black coaches is a great example of this. If you have white team owners and if you have mostly white coaches, they're going to have mostly white assistant coaches. That's it. And then you're not elevating black people into those same positions of power. It's the same with women. You're not elevating women into positions of power because most of the people in positions of power so far have been men.
How is that not a fair question?
Kind of proving the point of why what people, especially black women, other people who are anybody who's not white, why we hear feminism and we don't want that label because it means, I'm just gonna say, it means that. Like it means that you've already gone into a pinnacle of whatever you think your happiness needs or whatever your survivalist needs are, when there are people on lower end who are trying to survive, who are trying to get to a point of what should be normal. Based on what other people have.
It sort of sounds like you're saying feminism is not always inclusive then.
Right. It's most of the time it's not inclusive. It's more times than not, it's not. So, and within the just feminism space, again, there obviously the very basic is male versus female versus, but unfortunately, we've only had one subset of women be the face and voice and the academics and research and everything to be able to say, well, that's the standard we need to be in, when there are other people who are still trying to get to some type of normalcy and just living.
What is the biggest issue then that feminism faces?
I think it's the mindset. Women taking like the agency, women taking initiative. I think it's mindset holding them back a lot, because if you want to be in a competitive world and compete, you have to have the right mindset. And I think a lot of people blame their lack of confidence or what society tells them for the reason that they're not achieving what they need to achieve, when that's not the case. You have to have the mindset of achieving, because the men who built the world had the mindset of building it. So the women who want to engage and build that further, they need to have that same mindset.
I don't think we do. I think that's like assuming that we all want to be capitalist babies.
Right.
I think that men are not well adjusted in the society and women are not trying to re-embody what they have built for us. I think that like what we're forgetting is a very important detail, which is just like human respect and dignity.
Yeah,
and not asking people to prove what their experience is and to prove to you. Like it is like such conservative thinking to say like, I don't understand, explain it to me, versus just saying, I don't understand and let me respect what you are saying.
No, I'm respecting
right?
wherever your starting point. I'm respecting that. I'm really respecting that. I'm saying that if you don't have the mindset you can even achieve it, you're never going to even try. So it's
But
never...
achieve what? Like, what are we talking about? Because I feel like you projected this like capitalist ideology on every woman.
Achieve whatever it is you're looking for, equality, equity. But what I'm saying is women in the feminist space and a lot of these other spaces, we don't acknowledge that we have to take the initiative. We have to take the action. We have to have the mindset. We have to demand those things.
I don't understand how we're getting so off topic. This is about feminism today, whereas everybody wants to make this about their individual, here are all the multitude of other things that factor into my person. Great. This is about feminism. It's about womanhood. I understand that all of you have your own individual experiences and the other things that feed into you as a person. That's perfectly fine. But this is where intersectionality falls off the planet and loses, I would argue, probably the vast majority of people, including me. I'm not even a feminist. I don't give a crap about feminists arguing amongst themselves about who's the most victimized. But this is...
She's not necessarily wrong in the sense that, like, a lot of these people still have an incredibly atomized, incredibly individualized approach to any kind of structural critique. Okay? That is true. That is what's happening currently. The unfortunate reality is that it's coming from a conservative propagandist who, of course, as we all know, famously love using hyper-individual, hyper-specific examples when you try to talk about any sort of systemic issues. They'll be like, oh, there's no systemic racism, actually. It's all individuals. Oh, there's no systemic misogyny. It's just individuals being sexist. It's just, like I said, you are running into this issue because you are talking as normal women in the normal workforce. You are talking against women whose entire job is to undermine the feminist struggle, okay?
This is annoying to listen to. I honestly I don't understand anything anybody's even trying to get at.
A lot of people immediately write you off when you talk about equity, which is why I don't even talk about equity in the way that, like, I just don't think people understand what the fuck they're talking about when they say equity, okay? I think what you're supposed to say is, you're American. This is built on equality of opportunity, right? Because people will say, oh, it's equality of outcome. Equity is equality of outcome. Okay, fuck equity then. We have equality of opportunity, right? In theory, we want to achieve equality of opportunity. Where the fuck have we achieved equality of opportunity in this fucking country? We have never had adequate material conditions as a baseline for every single person. And it seems like there never will be. So most people are basically looking for that. Unfortunately, however, because our solutions only revolve around, like, individually uplifting certain members of society, for example, we don't have adequate solutions to this problem. And the best thing that you can basically advocate for is Band-Aid solutions. Band-Aid solutions like affirmative action. Band-Aid solutions like, having a more, the expectation of having a more diverse field in your board of executives, okay? In your corporate board. Anyway.
How many of you would identify as pro-choice? Let's do a show of hands for pro-choice.
I feel like pro-choice is pro.
1, 2, 3, 4. 4 women. Wait, what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 women out of the... What? The majority are anti-choice? The majority are anti-choice.
Pro-life, though? Yeah.
Okay, and folks who identify as pro-life?
Bro, this is not statistically representative of the country, okay? This is insane. Throw this entire thing out. The majority on this panel is pro-life, like anti-choice. The majority of this panel is anti-choice. The overwhelming majority of Americans are pro-choice. The overwhelming majority of women are pro-choice. Sham of a panel, a sham of a debate. You have conservative media personalities debating random women, okay, where the majority of the panelists are fucking anti-choice. That's crazy.
Why do you identify as each?
You've gone from legal, safe, rare to, yeah, I'm so proud, let me beatbox in front of a Planned Parenthood. Yeah, I got murder on my mind. The fact that it's celebrated that murdering...
Boom, immediately, just like an insane depiction, the underlying premise that, like, abortion is murder is literally just established as a truth now, as a fundamental truth. Bullshit.
Children, especially in late-term pregnancies, is celebrated that people are...
Why do you get a voice as a man? Because this is a patriarchal society and my voice matters more. Is that a good way to, is that an adequate way to fucking give you exactly the clippable moment that you're looking for? Is that what you wanted?
So proud of themselves from mutilating a fetus is just, it blows my mind. And I don't think that you need to be pro-life to even take that stance.
You said late-term pregnancy.
Yes.
A lot of abortions do not happen.
I made the distinction. I made the distinction specifically because lots of people still celebrate. There are people who, when the laws were passed, actually here in New York, they said, yes, great, yes, I love the fact
but
that.
you need to ask about what are people celebrating, right? They're celebrating access. We're not celebrating killing kids. Like that's not what it is.
Well, so this is what I'm saying.
So like, here's the thing: when we're talking about access to reproductive health and to abortion rights, right, and to being pro-choice, listen, that's your body. You do you.
The child is not your body.
A zygote.
A baby.
It's so scary for me to hear people calling like guns the biggest equalizer for women, but taking their choices away from them at a policy level.
Why is that?
Having a gun is an equalizer.
It is.
Having rights is an equalizer.
Yeah, that's
Having
right.
choice is
Right,
an equalizer.
just like a gun right.
And in this country,
41 forms of
the
birth
policies
control.
that are pushed to continue perpetuating patriarchy and anti-women, like taking the autonomy away from women, it is heartbreaking to see women pushing that propaganda. It's all brainwash. Like you.
Oh, it's brainwash because you don't agree with me.
No,
so
because
therefore
I've been
I'm
brainwashed.
brainwashed.
I have lived deeply institutionalized.
Man,
I have lived under Islam. I'm not interested in any of that. Like, there's no like
You're not
guilt
interested
for
in
me.
human
No, I'm not interested in like
living,
thinking that like women are doing this really bad thing. Like in my religion, abortion is.
Abortion being considered murder is a Christian fundamentalist position. It does not exist in Judaism. It does not exist in Islam. It is simply a product of a misunderstanding that some Christians have, a purposeful, deliberate misunderstanding that Christians have kept pushing for. Okay? It is entirely made up. There is no secular argument against abortion. Yes, there isn't. And that's precisely why these f***ing assholes, understanding that the society is becoming more and more secular, don't even talk about Christianity anymore. They just say life, they don't even say life begins at conception. They just basically have avoided speaking about that so that, you know, they don't have to address it ever.
Is actually allowed. If the woman needs it, she's allowed, because, you know, it's very interesting how like fundamental America is. Like fundamentalist.
This is nothing to do with
like
even religion. This is very
conservative
basic
thinking.
scientific.
Yeah. Oh no, it's basic scientific theories. Yeah, got it. Except there is no scientific answer for life. It's a philosophical conversation that you're having. That's it. You're not having a scientific conversation. You're having a conversation that is philosophic. And ultimately, your own personal perspective on the matter is completely irrelevant in this conversation. The reason why your own perspective is completely irrelevant in this conversation is because we do not adjudicate or write legislation on individual Christian thought, okay? That's fucking psychotic. You cannot undermine people's personal liberties and their own bodily autonomy because some dickhead Christians decided we needed more babies so that there were more farmhands during the fucking Black Plague, okay? That is insane.
Human right.
We're also talking about people not having access to abortion clinics where they're doing the things themselves and they die, right? We're also talking about women in the hospital who are pregnant, who have chosen to stay with their pregnancy and have issues at hospitals, and hospitals that are like, oh, no, we don't do that. Listen, for whatever reason, you don't need to explain it to anybody, but a lot of times when we're talking about access to reproductive health, for me, I'm thinking about Black, Indigenous, people of color, particularly women and girls who are working class, who do not have even access to like proper sexual education. It's the oppressive state of saying, I will force you to have a child even against your own will, right? Especially when you're thinking about women and girls who would be forced to have these children who are already living in very traumatized and scarce situations. You want to ask about barriers? That's a barrier right there.
Women in poverty aren't able
Finally. I mean, it's true. It's a major barrier.
to access the way that rich women are, and no matter what happens, rich women are gonna keep getting abortions, and people in poverty are gonna not. And the choice, opening it up, the overruling is marginally affecting people of color, people in poverty, way more than people who are going to get access to those abortions.
Actually, incorrect. You're the misquote. There's actually more abortions for people in poverty. It's just at a lower rate.
Why do you think that?
Wait, they're just going to let that hang? Wait, what? Yes, people in poverty get more abortions because there are more people in poverty. What kind of take is that, dude? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize the 1% made up 90% of abortions. What the fuck? There's no way she said that, right? Did I misunderstand this? Wait, what?
We're going to get access to those abortions.
Actually,
anyway.
incorrect. You're there's actually more abortions for people in poverty. It's just at a lower rate.
She said what? Poor people have abortions at a lower rate than rich people? Is that what she said? Is that what she's saying? I'm not even understanding what the point she tried to make. Yes, more poor people have abortions than rich people. There are more poor people. If she's saying poor people have abortions at a lower rate, like per capita, okay, then you're just proving her point. Like, you literally just proved her point. Rich people have historically and will always have access to abortions. This is what I don't understand about these kinds of conversations. Conservatives are so fucking stupid that they literally make false arguments that unironically disprove their point. Even if it's like an anecdote, or even if it is actually a logical fallacy, it's not one that favors their point. It's one that fucking literally undermines their point. You just literally cucked yourself.
Why do you think that abortion has been so tied up in this feminism conversation?
It's all just social structure set up around bodies. So if not all women are able to have babies, it's about the barriers and value that we give to these specific bodies, right? And so if abortion happens in a woman's body, that's why this conversation is coming up.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
You said that not all women are able to have babies or pregnancies. Are you saying, meaning like an infertility issue?
A number of reasons. There's all kinds of reasons that not all women are having babies.
Pearl, I saw your hand up. Yeah.
I think women want to sleep around and not have any consequence for it.
Dude, that's crazy. Like, she literally, like, again, this is another argument that undermines your point. You are claiming childbirth is a punishment. That argument makes it seem like carrying a pregnancy to term is a punishment. Just because you agree, if someone gets to have sex because no one's fucking you, okay, so you don't have to worry about this, that doesn't mean that they deserve to be punished with, like, carrying a child in their body and then rearing that child and taking care of that child. It's, again, like, this is an argument that leftists are supposed to be making here, which is just because someone has bodily autonomy and sexual liberation does not mean that they should be forcibly carrying pregnancies to term, is the argument that a leftist is supposed to be making on this panel. But she's making it, and she's doing it in the most annoying way possible, and I don't understand it. Like, what the fuck?
Hell yeah, we do.
Yeah, instead of, taking personal accountability and being on birth control, they just want to, like, do whatever they want.
Dog, you're a woman. What the fuck? Oh my God. Oh my God.
You say this like it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
It almost sounds like
Okay.
you said.
Can I also ask, do you have any care to empower women, or is disempowering women part of your, like, steez?
To see this as shame, insult, guilt, need to be right. Okay. Why is it empowering to sleep around?
No,
Why is
what
it
I'm
empowering?
saying is, like, I feel...
No, it's not empowering to sleep around. But if someone wants to be able to sleep around, they should be able to sleep around. Like, that's it. You automatically are making the assumption that, like, when a woman sleeps around, that's somehow a bad thing. Why is it bad for women to be able to sleep around? If they want to do so, as long as they're doing it consensually and in a safe manner. What is that? Why is that a problem? The empowerment doesn't come from women being able to sleep around. The empowerment comes from women being able to do whatever the fuck they want. If someone wants to sleep around, they should be able to do so. The fact that we even have to have a conversation about whether women should have choice or not implies that we are still existing under certain boundaries that women have to confront or at least conform to. No one is making this argument about men, okay? There is no legislation that's like, how do we punish men for fucking around? But there is legislation that basically you are admitting is punishing women for fucking around.
Like, you do, like, take, like, the way you speak on women is very sort of like, women just don't want to do this. Women just don't have this. Women just want to this.
Maybe I should
and I
change my
wonder
term. Maybe
why
I
you
should
have
say-
so much, like, hatred towards women.
I don't hate
Where
women.
does that root in? It
I
sounds
don't hate
like
women.
you do.
I am a woman.
No, she does hate women. She hates women because, like, again, women were very mean to her, I think, growing up. That's it. It's the same. She is, like, not different than Andrew Tate in that regard.
I
That doesn't
don't.
mean you don't have
I could be
self-hate.
black and still be internalized racism.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I'm saying
her.
specific things that you're saying, like women don't want to work, women don't want to this, women want to sleep around. Where did you learn these beliefs?
Again, she's right. If we are to look at this from the perspective of, like, how a Norman audience, not my audience, but a Norman audience is going to read this, they're going to say, oh, you're being unnecessarily you're being unnecessarily contentious and whiny because she's making good points. That's how most people are going to think. If I looked at the comments, I'm sure that that would reflect that position.
Systems from.
Because, okay, the question was, why does abortion keep getting brought up? 40% of women that have had abortions have had 2 or more. 40%.
Bro, also, here, let's take that one step further, because she's using that as a indication of sexual promiscuity, which is fucking who cares, right? But like the majority of women that have abortions have already had a child. Like it's not like they're anti-fucking carrying pregnancy is the term, dumbass.
Good for them. So what does that say to me? That means you're using it as a form of birth control, and they don't track the 60%.
That's bullshit. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. Also, you literally said you don't even want birth control. Oh my God. Oh my God, dude. That is not the truth, okay? That is not the truth. The idea that like women are going out and getting abortions because it's like, hold on, let me take a breath. If women are using abortion as a form of birth control, okay, that indicates societal failure, which there is a little bit of truth to that, okay? That means that there is no sexual education in schools. That means that access to contraceptives are unfortunately also safeguarded. That means that like these are women who did not want to carry a pregnancy to term, and this is their last resort, okay? Ultimately, though, if women are using abortion as a form of birth control, so what? 80%, well, 90% of abortions happen in the first trimester. At that point, it's this big. It's a parasite that's this big. That's not a human. Jesus Christ.
What kind of abortion?
Can you let me finish? They don't track the 60% to say who in the future has abortion. So to me, it's like, why are they dying so hard for abortion? They want to sleep around with no consequences, even though you have 41 forms of birth control.
Who does that benefit? I don't think that benefits women. I think actually that benefits men because it means that men can have sex with you without consequence. It means that you can sleep.
Bro, what? Yo, this is a self-report. This is no different than when Andrew Tate talks about how women have boo-boos and cooties, dude. This is literally a self-report. You are talking about childbirth in the most negative way you possibly can, and then also writing for it. Like, imagine thinking about this beautiful thing that human beings are capable of, which is giving birth to a new life, a whole-ass new life, and just talking about it like a way to punish women that have fucked people. That's crazy, dude.
Sleep with whoever you feel like, great, but there are consequences because women are the ones who get pregnant and carry babies and give birth.
It's very binary version of
yes,
sex.
because sex is binary, but please let me finish my point.
Oh God.
It's tricking women into thinking that aborting a pregnancy, terminating pregnancy is something to be celebrated, when in reality, for a lot of women, especially those who are doing it under duress, say that they've been raped, or in the small circumstances where something really traumatic has happened to them, that's a medical decision. Or say that they're miscarrying and then they have to have an assisted termination. That's a medical procedure. It's not a celebration of, oh, look at the.
No, the reason why people celebrate being able to have the freedom to make this medical procedure, as she correctly pointed out, is because of psychotic fucking losers like you. People are not like celebrating the act, okay? Oftentimes it's a traumatic one. People are celebrating the freedom because unfortunately, as it stands, in this society that you supposedly said women have no fucking boundaries or nothing shackling them down, that's a fucking boundary that they have to live with. So when that boundary is lifted, okay, and they can make a medical decision between them and their fucking doctor, that's a point of celebration. It's crazy to undermine that point.
I want to talk about transgender issues. Should trans women be included in feminist conversations? How about in women's spaces?
Yes, they're women. What's the question?
Pearl,
trans women are women.
So I want to come at this from the position of an athlete.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, yeah, you can't have because all women are athletes, dude. Shut the fuck up. Oh, God. No, what she's saying here is I want to come at this from a position where, like, the debate and the values that we're going to be debating on are at least, like, something that people are familiar with and have more adequate talking points for. Okay? That's it. But what the fuck do you mean? Sports is not the end-all be-all of women's issues, okay? Women's rights. That is so fucking stupid. That's so dumb.
So I play semi-pro basketball, semi-pro volleyball. So when it comes to like athletic spaces, I don't think that trans women should be allowed into athletic spaces because I don't think it's a fair.
Trans women should not be allowed into athletic spaces. Like, Why does Pearl lie about playing semi-pro volleyball? I'm not hating, but she's recently been bringing up this point a fair bit. When she went to the UK to play semi-pro volleyball, when she didn't, she came over to study. She did an interview in 2020 when she went viral for some quizzes, and she told the reporter she was going over to study in Bournemouth, but she ended up in London doing psychology or something. She used to make TikTok and IG stories about it. So she didn't go for volleyball, but studying, and she's not on some scholarship. The team she plays for, Mallory Eagles, say they're an amateur team on their website. It looks like she plays in the highest league, but it's definitely not semi-pro, and she's not getting paid because they don't pay their athletes. I think the team is linked to her college because UEL University is East London, but they have their own volleyball team, not Mallory Eagles. And anyway, college sport isn't a big deal over there compared to the States. I don't know. It just seems weird to lie when it can be disproven. I think the trolls have gotten to her. Sad. This guy is like looking for integrity in her propagandist.
I think as female athletes, we work so incredibly hard for the little opportunity there is in women's sports.
Would this be a barrier for you?
There's no barrier. There's less opportunity in some industries.
That's what a barrier is.
There's less. It's not. No. It's
That's
based
what
on the
friction
market.
means.
Okay.
Hold on, guys.
Okay. So again, we work very hard for the little opportunity there is in the space, because we're not as entertaining as the men. Sorry, we're just not. And so it's like you're going to take the little opportunity that we're given. And the problem is...
Hold up, let her cook.
We can't compete. We can't. Like,
she said we're not as entertaining as the men? What the fuck? Dude, that's such a funny thing to say. It's just like, how are you going to sit there and be like, I don't hate women, and then just say some dumb shit like that?
I'm 6 foot. If I go up against a 6 foot guy and I play basketball with him, he's going to body me.
And what happens if I go
True.
against you?
Even if I have years more of training. And so it's like you're taking
Liz is like, hold on. Let her be transphobic, please.
away the little opportunity that we're given and we all work so hard for, and you're just giving it back to biological guys. It's like this will be the end of women's sports.
Have you tried confidence?
Eli, hold on, Minnie.
Sorry,
Eli.
confidence can't make me bench what a guy benches.
I don't
Confidence can't
understand why
make me
you guys
6'7".
are so hostile. She's sharing her
And
experience.
I hate this argument so much. The only time motherfuckers care about women's sports is if they're like shitting on trans women. That's it.
Can't make me
In a
6'7".
specific
No, she's
field.
sharing
And I'd have to
trans
go.
No, she's not. She's a woman who's had an experience.
Hold on, one at a time.
You guys
We
are
let
so
Pearl
obsessed with your
finish.
own experiences and your own existence, and yet when a woman is sitting there telling you, I feel as though this is unfair and this is compromising and this situation is not helping women, you guys are like, meh, meh, meh. But when you're like, I'm a black person that did this, and this, then it's valid and fair and viable.
Eli, I want to give you the chance to respond.
So this is basically a joke of a talking point. Everyone has biological advantages in sports. How tall are you?
5'11" and a half. I'm tall.
I'm 5'8". I am a trans woman. You would crush me. You would absolutely crush
bone
me.
density, wrist strength, muscle density. You can't switch those.
That's so funny. Yeah, what are you saying, that you wouldn't be able to crush her? Bro, Pearly could crush like cis men, okay? If she went up against Ben Shapiro, she would literally crush Ben Shapiro. Obviously, trans women are women, but it gets complicated when talking about women's sport. Even after taking HRT, trans women still have an unfair advantage against biological women. First of all, cis women is the proper term there, not bio women. And secondly, yeah, it doesn't matter though. You have to either assume that like there's something indecent there about trans women and the way that they exist, or you don't, okay? That's it. Do you think that trans women are transitioning specifically to win athletic competitions? Do you think that the trans existence is somehow, less natural? And if you think that like any kind of hormone therapy is unacceptable, what do you have to say about people like Messi, who have overcome great odds and taken HGH at an early age, specifically so they could become 5'11" and not fucking die by the age of 20? What do you have to say about people that took TRT or still take TRT in order to adjust their hormone levels? Like, there are plenty of people who do this, okay? It's just an excuse. I think people are just looking for an excuse for like traffic transphobic takes.
Yeah, exactly. You would crush me.
But also, Eli, you would never play at the level that Pearl plays because you would never get there.
So let me give you a few more examples here too. So Michael Phelps produced more lactic acid in his body, which caused him to swim better than any of his competitors. This was widely celebrated, and nobody contested it. Now, this is a performance-enhancing hormone. So we all have different bodies. And now I'm not saying that trans women who aren't on hormones should participate, but every major medical and every major sports organization agrees that trans women who have been on hormones for between 1 and 3 years, depending on the organization, have the same competitive abilities.
The study that you're referencing had like 7.
She meant less lactic acid, not more. More lactic acid would be bad. Less lactic acid is what helped him feel less pain.
People participated.
That's misinformation, by the way. I'm referencing several different studies.
Ooh, that, by the way, she fucking cooked her. That was really good. Notice how when you have a really good take, they just crumble under that pressure so quickly and resort to like ridiculous fucking counters.
7 people participated.
That's misinformation, by the way. I'm referencing several different studies. I'm a trans woman and a researcher.
It's getting personal. I don't want it to be
a lot
personal.
of us live in this space where we're told that our opinions don't count because they're not the right kind of opinions, and we're constantly shouted over.
Yeah, look. Now she's the victim. Shut the fuck up. We're being shouted over. It's like, what? You just got owned and you had no counter, so then you have to turn around and be like, look at us. You're like, yeah, it's so fucked up. Dumbass. Listen, if you can't take the heat, get the fuck out of the kitchen.
And talked over, regardless of what we look like, because there's one group in society that basically takes precedence, and it's frustrating. So yeah, of course, it's.
She just moved. We are no longer having a conversation about trans athletes. Look how quickly she fucking ran away from that.
It's frustrating because when we try to talk about it, we get shouted down. We get told to be quiet. We get spoken down.
Bro, this is literally a debate. Shut the fuck up. Like you've been running the debate the entire time. You've been dominating the conversation the entire time.
Too as well. So
Okay,
there's
me, my fifis.
hostility there for plenty of women.
It's an opportunity to speak.
You're
with
literally a
each
white
other
woman from
then.
Australia. You live in a bubble and you're pissed that voices that have been silenced forever finally can be heard.
That's why they have the voice, because they speak up.
Okay, we're having a conversation about transgender women participating in sports.
As a white woman, I should be able to speak at all fucking times.
Eli, I saw you nodding your head over there.
Several times. This is more than about sports. This is about free and equal participation for transgender people in social life.
She's right.
The right sees this as a socially acceptable way to begin to remove trans people from different engagements in our society. So it does just start with sports or bathrooms or locker rooms, something that they find is more acceptable. And then at this point, they started to move into education, getting trans teachers fired, banning trans books. This is a route that is very effective because it's seen as more acceptable. But it's also overlooking a lot of major details. Like, I mean, do y'all know how many trans women have won national titles?
One too many.
One. It's Leah Thomas is the only one.
One too many.
If
one too many?
She said one too many. That's psychotic, bro. Again, don't do this. Don't do this. I wouldn't be talking this much shit if the trans woman next to me is more gender conforming than myself as a cis woman to the unrealistic and weird expectations of gender expression that you yourself are upholding.
If women's sports were actually going to end in some way, I mean, it's just not happening. Wouldn't you think there would be more trans women in sports when the majority of states do allow trans women full participation?
Yeah.
International titles, 0. No global titles have ever been won by a trans woman.
Notice how Eli, who does this as a researcher, okay, was so easily able to just fucking boop, shut them the fuck up. Whereas all these other talking points, especially when it's not in their, when they're like normal women that aren't in fucking media, okay, were met with a barrage of weird talking points, like right-wing talking points that these people are fucking very good at just like quickly disseminating. That was the only instance throughout this entire process where I saw the conservative shitheads, the two media conservative shitheads, shut the fuck up. And as soon as they got countered, they started fucking crying about being bullied. This is why I always say it's not for everybody. Like, these kinds of panels are really fucking annoying to conduct and put together when you put people who aren't like skilled orators or people who are just normal people against fucking conservative media people, okay?
Our time together has almost come to an end. We sort of started talking about feminism, big picture. We're gonna try again. Is feminism dead?
I think feminism is alive, and I'm thankful to be a participant and believer of it.
I would say, as far as the West goes, I think that feminism has been cannibalized by other movements like leftism, like transgenderism.
So I think feminism is very much...
Yeah, she's like, we need to go back to a right-wing feminism, like, you know, the abolitionist movement where black women were left behind. Like, is that what you mean? Like, what is a right-wing feminism? Like, it's been cannibalized by left-wing movements? Like, what the fuck does that mean?
Movements like leftism, like transgenderism.
So I think feminism is very much alive and well. I think it takes different forms depending on who you're talking to, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. And as I've defined in the beginning, for me, I use it as a lens. So I don't think I'll ever stop having it in my arsenal, if you will. It makes for a good vice panel.
Okay, we're done. I appreciate everybody taking the time. I know this is...
That was awful. What a fucking awful thing, dude. What an awful experience. Just straight up, like, I mean, that gave me a headache, like a major headache.